Mike Bohn here with Gregor Gillespie, the Gift, one of the top lightweights in the world. And Gregor, I know you came off a great win over Diego Ferreira back in May, and we thought, that was going to be some great momentum for you coming into the rest of the year, but you're still here entering 2022 without a fight, man. So are you pretty frustrated right now? I know you've kind of gone to Twitter and showed a lot.
Yeah, super frustrated. And it's like, I've been radio silent the last, 5 or 6 years. I don't call people out. I've been pretty adamant about not doing that. But, I'll give you the whole backstory here. I thought I was going to get a top 10, top 5, whatever that, the case would have been after a win like I had, the last one I fought. For example, Dariush had a split decision against Ferreira or whatever, how you say his name. I finished the guy, and then he goes on to Dariush goes on to fight Ferguson. Then he's fighting in what would you'd assume would be a title eliminator spot against Islam right now. And it's like I finished the guy, and now I'm sitting here waiting for a fight. And obviously, people have been on Instagram and Twitter, and I've been offered fights. They're just not fights I'm interested in taking, man. I'm not ancient by any means, but I'm 35 years old. I don't have that many years left in my career, and I'm just not fighting guys that are ranked lower than me at this point. And I don't want to sound like I'm some filthy rich guy. I'm not, but I don't need to fight every fight they offer me to keep food on the table. And to be totally honest with you, I'm not fighting for money, man. If that were the case, I would have taken all the fights they offered me. I want to fight the guys that are going to move me up the rankings, period. And that would be someone ahead of me in the rankings. They offered me, after I beat Ferreira, they offered me Ferguson. I accepted, sometime over the summer. I can't recall exactly what month it was. They offered me Ferguson for the November card at MSG. I said yes. I didn't hear back. I contact my manager. He says they don't sound too thrilled to fight you. And I said, well, I'm not really sure what that means, but if you look at the top 10 rankings and the timing of everything, everybody was paired up, or there were certain guys that I knew I just wasn't going to get the fight with. So you have to eliminate a couple right off the bat, right? Not fighting for the belt. McGregor, I'm realistically speaking, with the rankings, it's silly to have him at 9 and me at 10. I'm not fighting McGregor, obviously. I have $70,000 followers. He's got 40 million. It's just not something it's not feasible. Then you look at the rest of the guys are all paired up with each other, and me and Ferguson weren't. And on top of that, we fought one weekend apart. Literally, I fought the 8th of May. He fought the 15th on the same card. I think Oliveira fought Chandler. It was that same weekend. So the timing of it just made sense. I don't know. It's just super frustrating, man. So anyways, I accept the fight. He turns it down. We kept asking for the fight, and it was kept same response. He doesn't seem thrilled. He doesn't want the fight. Blah 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 blah. So then again, another look at all the pairings and all the fights that took place. Another cycle of fights takes place with amongst the top 10. Another fight for the belt. Oliveira beats Poirier. And Gaethje and Chandler fight, and it's here I am sitting waiting for a fight. Again, the only two guys that really realistically are not paired up or moving weight classes or, whatever the case may be, are me and Ferguson again. So, what's happening? He doesn't want the fight. And then I see him calling out Chandler, and that really pissed me off. It's the wrestling season, dude. Come on, give me a break. Chandler is a great wrestler, but he doesn't wrestle in his fights. I really didn't understand that comment. And to be totally honest, a ton of the stuff that Ferguson posts online doesn't make a lot of sense anyways. So I don't really know. Maybe he considers himself a wrestler. I wouldn't consider Tony Ferguson to be that hot of a wrestler. And that being said, I do think Mike Chandler's a great wrestler. Sorry for the glare here, but Chandler doesn't wrestle in his fights. Yeah. Mike Chandler's a fully capable wrestler. But if you watch Mike Chandler fight, he doesn't really shoot that much. He doesn't. I wouldn't consider him. If you watched him fight, you watched 10 of his last fights, you're not gonna be wow, that's a wrestling heavy fighter by any means. And Tony Ferguson, I don't consider him to be that hot of a wrestler at all. He does that weird rolling around thing on his back and dives in and pretends he does ankle picks or always talks about ankle picks. Ankle picks are silly. in the sport of wrestling, and even sillier to like pretend you're going to do in a fight. So yeah, but anyways, I think in my last fight alone, I wrestled more than Mike Chandler has done in his last 10 fights, and that's not taking away. I think Mike Chandler's a great fighter, and I do think he's a good wrestler. He does not wrestle in his fights. So then like the comment from Tony Ferguson about wrestling season, I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? So, I said, you want to talk about wrestling season? There's a wrestler, the wrestler in the division is me, and you're like declining fight after fight against me. Then I see you talking about fighting Mike Chandler on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And then, of course, all the people that have any sort of like computer or, design skills are making those like fake paired up pictures of, like they take the UFC background and then they put both fighters on it and it looks identical to when a UFC post comes out. Yeah. And then people are sending that to me like, looks like you're not getting the fight with Ferguson. And like, I obviously know that that's, someone making that, like, and it's not a pure UFC post, but it still was irritating the shit out of me because that's the fight that I want. And like, again, we fought one weekend apart and either of us haven't fought since. And it's just like super frustrating, like I got a long layoff after me getting knocked out by Kevin Lee. I broke my jaw. Then as soon as I was cleared, it was literally like COVID lockdown shutdown. And then the Brad Riddell incident happened. So it was like, dude, it was like forever between fights. And I felt like, man, that was a great win. I think it was super exciting, considering that it was not much of a striking fight. And the grappling ones typically aren't fan favorites. But, man, I got a ton of positive feedback from that. And, like, I wanted to really ride that wave and, like, dude, I don't have a lot to choose from if I'm really being picky, which I am, but there's 10 guys ahead of me. I just someone ahead of me. I want a full fight camp and I want a guy ahead of me. That's literally like my only like requirements. And then, dude, I don't know. It just was really frustrating the other day when I saw that Ferguson, was calling out Chandler and then wrestling season. And then, it was actually kind of funny how it happened because like everyone knows like I'm pretty soft spoken when it comes to, calling people out. I always kind of avoid that situation. But I was just really frustrated with that text from my manager about him not wanting or will not fight me. But the timing was a little weird because I had literally just posted like a really heartfelt birthday post for my girlfriend's son, who I love the kid. He's like, that's my little bud. And, I made a really nice post about him. And I knew that like 30 minutes after that, if I posted that video of me saying what I was saying about Ferguson, that it would completely like eclipse that nice post I just made about Christopher. Right. And so what I did is I didn't want to like lose how I felt. So I recorded the video and then ended up posting it the next day because I knew like, again, like people have seen my attempts at a call out before and they're really cringy and corny, but like I felt so strongly in that moment when I got that text from my manager. I needed to record it that minute, which I did, and I think I captured how I felt pretty well. And that was not, a scripted or practiced. That was not practiced. That was just put the camera in my face when I was feeling pretty strongly about it and hit record,
Yeah, and I think it resonated with the people and everything. And I think it seems like the biggest frustration here is like you mentioned you want those guys ahead. The UFC is obviously trying to make that fight. They've offered it to you. You've agreed, but it's the fighter who's not willing to take it, which it'd be one thing if the UFC wasn't giving you the opportunity, but they're trying to. It's just you can't get any of these guys to sign the contract, right?
Sure. And yeah, and that being said, like the UFC, my experience with the UFC has been like phenomenal. So whenever I see like people complain about pay or matchups or like the UFC is not giving you fights, bro, it's not the UFC. The UFC is amazing. I couldn't imagine fighting for another organization. They've been nothing but amazing to me. It's like across the board, how they handle their athletes with pay, how they handle the medical stuff. They follow up every aspect and facet of the sport. So it is not the UFC. And again, I want to make it clear, I'm not like saying that the top 10 guys are like afraid to fight me, but I also think there's probably 5 of them out of the top 10 that it just wouldn't make sense for them to fight me. So, I haven't mentioned a few names. I'm not calling out Dustin Poirier. I would take the fight in a heartbeat, but I don't think that would make sense on his end, and that wouldn't mean that Dustin is afraid to fight me. But it's just really frustrating because like, how are you supposed to jump spots without beating guys that are ahead of you or that have a? I don't want to beat. Sound like I'm being like a picky fight snob here. I'm not, but I know how you get to getting a title shot, and it's not by beating guys that are behind you who just cracked the top 15. That's just not how it works, So again, Tony Ferguson, myself. Yep.
Yeah,
Say it again.
So when you say that, you're kind of referring to like a Matthias Gamrot, who's a guy who called you out, who's obviously just got in and stuff. But I guess you're in this tricky crossroads, right? Like, how long do you wait? I know you said you don't need the money, you don't need to fight, but you want to. The passion is there. So, like, how long do you kind of do this balance of like, I'm only going to take a fight that makes sense versus I just want to fight?
I mean, I'll just keep training and stay ready, and it's like, well, or be ready to at least jump into a fight camp, But I'm extremely adamant, and I'm very sincere when I say I'm not going to fight a guy who's behind me right now, who's not going to into a spot that would get me close to the belt. I'm 35, and it's like, on top of that, it's like, I'm not really sure what the issue is, like why Tony wouldn't want to fight me. I'm 14-1. I have 12 finishes. I only have one fight in the UFC that wasn't a finish. And like, you could probably expect with a fight like me and Tony, I mean, you're probably going to get an extra 50 grand, man. Like, it should be like a fireworks kind of fight, man. Like, I really don't see what the downside would be to fighting me, It's just, I don't know. It's really, really frustrating. And again, I guess the thing that shortened the fuse of it the other day was that posts that I was being, constantly bombarded with about Tony fighting Chandler, and everyone, it looks like you're not getting that fight. All right. Yeah. It's just super frustrating.
Yeah, I saw your comment about Chandler too. You guys have the history in terms of the wrestling, right? You guys have faced off on the mat a few times before.
Yeah, well, we wrestled at the NCAA tournament. I think it was in 2009. It was both of our senior years, and like this. And again, he's a good wrestler. That's another fight that I would take too. I love the Mike Chandler fight too. My understanding from, the information that I've got about that is Mike Chandler's been in some wars. He needs a bit of a break, and I get that, man. He's had some battles, dude. And like, when you go through a fight like him and Gaethje had, you need some rest. I get that, but like, man, if there's a fight that he gets arranged or gets scheduled in, like, dude, you didn't need that long of a break. I asked for that, so I don't know. But yeah, there is history there too. And again, like, I'm the wrestler in that division. Like, I did beat Mike Chandler. Not a lot of people know that. It wasn't a very close match. I don't know if anyone saw the score of that, but that was. Oh, dude, did it freeze again?
No, you're good.
All right. Yeah, and that was not a close match. I think it was like 10-2 or 12-2. So, like, if anyone's mentioning wrestlers in the division, and it's not, or even in the UFC, man, like, I'm the wrestler, like, yeah. So if Tony wants to talk about wrestling season, sign the fucking contract, bro. Like, what the problem is.
There you go. Well, hopefully this will convince them. It's super unfortunate this is happening to you. I know that this is kind of part of the sport. It does happen to guys occasionally.
Sure.
But obviously, I know that the matchmakers, Sean Shelby, things like that, they try to do best by someone who's in your position. So hopefully, patience and timing and the right thing will come your way.
Yeah, and again, I want to make it like abundantly clear: the UFC is not the issue. I love the guys at the UFC. I've had nothing but an unbelievable experience with those guys. They always work with me if there's something that's an issue. And I try to be like the best, employee or whatever, fighter for them and an advocate for their organization. I think there is no other organization. The UFC is the, top of the food chain. It's not an issue with them. And also, like, in that rant I went on the other day on Instagram, I mentioned, none of these guys seem to want to fight. There are obviously guys that have, said my name, and guys that will, are willing to fight me, but it's just not the guys that are going to propel me towards the ultimate goal here. And again, the clock is ticking, so I want to like get this thing moving. If I was 27 years old, I'd take the fight of the guys that are behind me, but it's just, it's a weird spot, I guess. So, here we are.
Totally understandable, man. Yeah. Well, hopefully it works out for you. Before I let you go, so we can put it out on like a better high note, if I say 2021, what was the fishing highlight for you?
All right, so I guess I got to clear some stuff up because everyone keeps mentioning fishing, and I like, I still am, involved in fishing to a smaller extent. But like, man, my girlfriend Christina, she got me into climbing mountains, and I hate to call it hiking, but I guess it's hiking. But we're like out there fucking scaling like enormous mountains, and up actually near Canada in the Adirondacks in New York, and I've really been into that the last year. I think I got somewhere close to in between 80 and 100 4,000 peaks over the last year. So there's like a challenge up there. It's called the 46 High Peaks. They're 4,000 foot or higher, and my girlfriend and I are knocking those off the list. So our deal is that we're going to do them all together and finish on the same kind of, time frame. We want to, end together and knock them off at the same time. So I have a little bit more of a loose schedule than she does. So I get up there more frequent. I do repeats. So I'll do one we've already climbed. So I'm not knocking any off the list that she hasn't done. But yeah, I think I did. I lost count and stopped counting, but it was something like in between 80 and 100 4,000 footers over the last year. So that's been consuming most of my time, and it's really kind of affected my fishing. So we may need to change the hashtag to best hiker MMA or something like that, But,
hey man, nothing wrong with expanding your passions and exploring more things in life. That sounds awesome regardless.
Sure.
That's awesome, man. Well, hopefully this will help get you the attention you deserve and a fight you deserve, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you don't do too many interviews, so it really means a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, man.